Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jess, and today I'm working on my 2008 Chevy Impala SS. No, not the 3.8 supercharged. It is the 5.3 LS4. Today, we're going to be changing out the hubs. This is probably the third time I've changed these hubs out. I've been using the cheap Chinese Precision brand from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and they suck. So I'm going to get those changed, swap them out for some ACDelco units, and we're going to get right into it. Maybe we wait for the air compressor to catch up. In the meantime, maybe I can start working on these caliper bolts. Also, it may help if you go the right way. Didn't want that one coming off. Oh, except I'm going the wrong freaking way because I'm an idiot. Hey, look at that. It actually comes loose when you go the right way. Weird. Compressor's caught up. I'm going to try hitting it again. That's going to be hot. Like I said, this is going to be my third time doing this on each side. I replaced them once, and then the integrated ABS sensor failed on the one side, so I replaced it again with a warranty precision unit. And then the other one failed on the other side, so I replaced it with a warranty unit. Now we're doing it again, but this time I'm not going back with totally Chinese parts. Just partly. Because, yes, I'm sure by now ACDelco has imported materials or whatever from China, or they're totally made in China now. I don't know. We'll look at the box. We'll see what it says. But I'm hoping a little bit better quality. And I'm really tired of doing this. I like to try to keep a magnet handy for keeping parts in so I don't lose them. There's one. I'm also going to use my bungee cord here to hang from the strut so I can hang my caliper on so as to not tug on the hose too much. Here's another one of GM's fine decisions. Look at that. I mean, who thought that kind of an angle, that hard 180 like that, was good on a brake hose? Come on, GM. That's pretty sad. You want to hang them by something anyway. It's not good for the brake hoses to stretch and carry that kind of weight like that, but just thought you'd like to see that. All right. Wiggle, wiggle, twist. There we go. Just going to go through the bolt hole there. Makes it easy. Very nice. Stupid torque screw holding that thing on. I think it might be like a T30. I can't remember offhand. Sure enough, T30. You'd think after doing this so many times I'd know that. I don't. I had everything else memorized though. Okay. Set that aside nice. All right, now we've got 1, 2, 3 13 millimeter half bolts, since we've already got the axle nut off here. Try to sneak in here and try to get them out the way I have before. Emphasis on try. All right. Maybe I come at it this way. the downward force on it. There it is. Ouch. Be sure to get your finger in there between the axle and the ratchet so you can smash your hand. For the record, you can't see it, but down here underneath the passenger and the driver's door, I have jack stands. And then I have my big jack holding up the cross member, or not the cross member, the engine cradle, just adding extra support. So all this is, you know, safe enough. There it is. Oh, I sure didn't want that coming out. Oh, alrighty. Oh, that one's pretty freaking tight. All right, so those two are loose. I wonder if maybe I can get in there like this. Ooh, maybe not. The sway bar is kind of keeping my ratchet at a bad angle. I mean, I can get on it, but it's really not the best angle to get at. Let me get a shorter extension. Let's see if I can get in there this way. Well, I could if it was a deep 13. And go find one of those. Yeah, that's a lot better. There we go. That's better. Sure, I'm totally in your way by now. Ta-da. Before I forget about it, I'm gonna pull my ABS sensor off of here. The connector, anyway. Need a little pry right there. Or, you know, just break it because it's got no rigidity to hold itself on. And any kind of pry you put on it is just going to stress it out and break it. These stupid things here. Whatever. It's out now. Thankfully, it's just the hub side, not the car side. Little trick I've come to know, or come to appreciate. If you're doing something like this, when there's bolts higher and lower, and a part is suspended by those bolts, leaving one of the top bolts partially threaded will help hold it while you finagle, get all the lower bolts out. That way you can hopefully see what you're doing and thread that bolt out so you have more control over it, versus trying to hold it from down here and finagle bolts up and around that you may not be able to see. Oh, and then forget about that bolt up top so it won't come out. There we go. There it is. One down. Let's jump on the other side. Runtime on this clip so far is 18 minutes and 7 seconds, as I said, 7. And that's including having to step off camera, which you may not have seen, to grab extra tools or whatever. So, I mean, if that doesn't say I've done it before, I don't know what does. Now that I have all the tools I just used on that side, this side's guaranteed to go quicker, right? Sure. That's what we'll say anyway. And don't worry about the air gun struggling to get the lug nuts and stuff off. They really aren't that tight. It's a really old air gun. It hasn't exactly had a good, easy life. It's been well used, well worn. So I'm pretty sure it's pretty well tired. kung fu grip that rotor shut, or rotor still, so get the set screw out. This isn't necessarily a how-to video, but it very well could be a how-to video. I think these are like 06 to 13 or 07 to 13 Impalas, and I believe they're all basically the same. The LT or LS, LTZ, whatever, all that crap. You can sure use it as a how-to. All I'm doing here is taking the two 15mm bolts that mount the caliper to the knuckle. I'm going to thread that one partially out. I'm going to come down here, take the bottom one out. That way it'll hang. I can hold it, pull that bolt out, it'll come off. Except I need to grab another bungee cord. I only had two little ones left, so I'm going to use these to double up. I used a little bit of Loctite on these to go back, these caliper bolts, and even the hub bolts too. So that's why I'm just giving them a little persuasion with the hammer. Just a little. I'm really not hitting the wrench that hard. For anybody playing along at home, we are talking about this bolt right here, and then that bolt just like it. That one down there, I got the light on. So this one here, and that one down there, the light is focused on. Those are the two bolts we're talking about that will allow to take the caliper off here. Once I get those broke with the once I get them broke loose, I like to use a solid wrench, not a ratcheting flex head wrench, because I don't want to use the hammering on these joints and the ratchet mechanism here. So I'll usually, if I have to use persuasion, use a hammer or whatever, or pry on it, I'll use a solid wrench, a straight wrench, and then to speed things up, once I get it loose, I will use the ratchet wrench to finish the job. There's one. Then also don't forget, and being dummy like me, if you are facing the threads of the bolt, you have to back it out in reverse. Then if you're looking at the head of the bolt, you would back it out to you. Right now it's being backed out away from me. So if you're like me, a little slow, and forget a lot of things, just remember to go in reverse to thread the bolt out. Otherwise you could be like me and start to back the bolt out, then forget halfway through and start threading the bolt back in. And you go, how long is this bolt? What's taking so long? And you realize you've been doing it wrong for 10 minutes? Yeah, don't do that. Also, now would be a good time to do a bunch of inspections if you haven't been under the car in a while. Check for any leaks of any kind. You could be checking the condition of the rotor surface, check the pad life left on the brake pads here. Make sure your brake hose doesn't have any cracks or splits or leaks in it, anything like that. You can check, make sure up here, like the strut, the actual shock portion, make sure it's not leaking anything or making a mess. You know, there's just a lot of little things you could look at while you're here. But in my personal case, this car is basically new. This is essentially a brand new 2008 Impala. That's a story for another day. But moral of the story is, I know everything is new. I know everything is good. I swear to God, I'm under this car every other week. So I am pretty well aware of what's going on underneath here. So I don't have to worry so much about taking a look at everything. All right, there's that one. And I threw the bolt. There we go. Now then. There we go. Trying to remember how I did this last time with these little shorty bungees. I mean, that kind of works. They're kind of hooked into the threads. They don't fit all the way through the threaded hole. This will probably be good enough. There we go. Got all that suspended. Pull the rotor off. This time I'm going to do the sensor wire first. And to show what I'm talking about, this little sensor right here, you can kind of see that I've got the light on there. I'm just going to pull lightly up on this little tab you see here, and this whole connector will slide away or down towards the ground. And then covered in schmutz, so you may not be able to see, if I can get the camera and the light in there at the same time, there's a little pinch tab that keeps this hub side connector snapped in place to this little metal bracket that slides around this way. So I'm going to pinch the two tabs shut, or close it together, and then this will come away towards the front of the car, and it'll come out. Normally a screwdriver would be a good job for this, or a needle nose pliers, but I'm lazy and don't want to get another set. I did it with my wrench, and there it is. You can kind of see I got it pulled out there. Just like that. And there's the connector. Trade tools again. So we're getting the bolts out. Yep, that one's pretty freaking tight. May have to try to get that from this side. Oh. All right, leave that just a couple of threads in. Change tools to get this one. Oh man, I don't want to give. There, that one's loose. This one, there it goes. Come on. Come out of there. There it is. This is why it's important we have good head-on contact like this. Good contact all the way around the head of the bolt. So that way we're not cockeyed like that and then try to loosen it. As you can see, that fresh metal there, I almost lost that bolt because I didn't quite have it on there enough. So let that be a lesson to you. And then also, because this deep 13 socket was the first one I found, it just happened to be a 12 point, and it looks like it's an old 12 point too. I'm not a big fan of 12 point sockets just for this reason. A 6 point will have much better grip in most cases. These are good for certain situations if you're really having a hard time getting any kind of a rotation on anything, but typically on high torque situations, I like to use a 6 point. The way I know it fits better and has better surface area, better grip. So anyway, let this be a lesson to you. Don't do this, because this is what happens. And then if I really wasn't careful, I didn't catch it in time, I would have had a really, really, really bad day trying to get this out. So now I'm going to try to find something to replace this so I can throw this bolt out. Learn from my mistakes. Fun fact, the parts stores should, or at least O'Reilly's does, sell hub bolt replacements. I think you buy them in a kit, typically. So you can get them if you do need them, just for situations like that. But also, the fact that I've had to do this 3 times now doesn't help the fact that I just about destroyed the head on that bolt. So another lesson, I guess, is don't buy cheap parts just because they're cheap. Do what you can to come up with the money to buy a good part, or a seemingly good part. You know what also might be really helpful is pulling the axle nut off, because I'm getting ahead of myself now. Hopefully I can get it off. Another tip, if you're using air tools like me and you're old school, because that's all you can afford, wear ear protection when you're rattling the air gun like that. That's really bad on your ears. I normally am really good about using my ear protectors when I'm using other tools, but for some reason I'm turning wrenches, I kind of forget about that stuff. Don't be like me. Protect your eyes, protect your ears, all that good stuff. Be safe. Nothing's worth killing yourself over or maiming yourself or anything like that. Don't do it. All right, now that sucker's nuclear hot. There we go. Pull the sensor through. Maybe. Pull the sensor through. Like that. Done. Yeah, and don't forget to put that back on there. I've done that once. Another quick tip for you is if you're like me, after warranty parts, you got to take your greasy, grimy parts back to the parts store to get new ones. Get yourself a cardboard box or a tote or something like I've got here, and put them in that so you're not dirtying up the interior of your car or whatever. Normally I'd be using a cardboard box myself, but I just went through the garage and cleaned up everything and threw a bunch of cardboard stuff out. So anyway, I'm going to use this guy that I probably ended up stealing from work, or my in-law probably stole from work, to haul these around to get the new ones brought back. Let's do it. Sure enough, there you go. ACDelco, made in China. Of course it is. All right, we're back. Got my new Chinese ACDelco hub assembly. Then, as is tradition, I meant to go look for that hub bolt kit I had mentioned earlier and didn't, because I forgot, because I'm an idiot. So I have this other bolt that appears to be correct. May end up using that with a washer on it if I can't get this to get a good bite on it. So we'll see what happens here. Again, never throw things away, just for occasions like this. And then one tidbit I am going to mention also, if a bolt's hard to get to and you mess up the head like this, or the threads or whatever, and you need to be sure you get a good bite on it the next time you service it, take it out of the spot that it was in before that was difficult to get to and move it to an easier accessible location. That way you guarantee yourself a better shot at getting it out next time. And then what I like to do too is when I'm using splined components like axles and hubs and whatnot, I will take a little bit of the NIC's copper. Is what I like to use. I don't know why I use copper. Copper is usually easier to get a hold of for me, I guess. And it's not all that much money. I'll slather a little bit probably inside the hub and work it back and forth. That way I get some lubrication in there. Just kind of helps get everything set. The first couple of times I did this, I did Scotch-Brite wheel, or a little, I forget what you call them, little sandpaper discs on a drill bit you can use. I buzzed in there a couple of times to help get all that stuff cleaned up. The first time I did that, and changed the hub to get it easier to install the first replacement unit. I'm not going to do that this time, but normally I would. A little bit of that, a little bit of this, and then I will push and drag. Something like that. Doesn't have to be a lot, but makes me feel better about it anyway. I guess something else we could look at too is, since we have that set screw hole here, we could always double check, make sure it actually fits first before we go to the trouble of installing the hub, find out that our set screw doesn't work. And it looks like it's going to, so we should be fine. All right, now then, because we know that this hub has an integrated or built-in hub sensor, wheel speed sensor, ABS sensor, whatever you want to call it, it's important to orientate the hub in such a direction that the vehicle side of the harness can actually hook up to the hub side of the harness. So in this case, we have one uppermost bolt hole in our triangular or 3-point bolt pattern. And I know that the vehicle speed sensor comes up on this side facing up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set my hub in such a way that I have one bolt hole facing up and that my connector for the ABS sensor is closest to that side. That way when I bolt this up and go to connect it, I know it's going to fit the first time, and it's not going to, I'm going to have to pull it off and rotate this and do it all over again. The only trick here is just like that. Just lay the axle off to the side in the hole for the knuckle. Be sure your sensor comes up in the right side here, and you should be good to go. And again, remember to keep this dust plate shield thinger in place also, because that will make a difference. All right, so that is setting in place for the moment. I'm going to take axle nut and put it on a couple of threads. Be sure the hub doesn't fall off by choice. Then I'm going to take now like I said, I'm going to take my buggered bolt. I'm going to put it in the top location because that's the easiest one to get to, because I was stupid and did not get that replacement bolt like I should have. Learn from my mistakes. Actually, I'm going to feed it in with this so I can actually get it in there. I like to be sure I like to thread it by hand first to start it. Then I'll come back with the ratchet. That way, just one extra step to be sure that hopefully you don't cross thread the bolt in there. That's never a good thing. And now I'm going to switch the ratchet direction. So it's the bolt, the end of the threads is just sticking through the base of the hub, and there's still some wiggle room in the assembly. I'm going to take this looseness and use that to be able to jockey the hub onto the spindle with the dust cover here. That way it makes it easier to get everything lined up, then you cinch everything down evenly. Otherwise, if you just cinch the one bolt down, odds are this hole in the dust cover won't line up with this hole in the hub, which won't line up with this hole in the knuckle. The same thing for this hole on this side of the hub and this side of the dust cover and this side of the knuckle. So leave it loose, start all your bolts, then tighten everything down. Same thing, use my tool here. Maybe not that tool, maybe the other tool. Use my other tool here. Start this one on this side. Okay, I can start to see the end of the bolt on that one. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on this side here, through this hole. Normally, once you get 2 out of 3 lined up pretty well, the third one should go in. Doesn't mean it always will. You may need to jockey it a little more to be sure. Yep, there it goes. One bolt here, one bolt here, one bolt there, just like that. Now, got our dust plate, our dust cover in place, our hub is in place. All 3 of those bolts are started. What I'm going to do, I'm going to back this nut off now that I know that the hub's not going to fall out of the knuckle. I'm going to take a little bit of Never Come Out juice, number 27200 red high temp Loctite. Not saying you have to do this, but I like to. I'm just going to squirt a little bit. If I can get some out here. There we go. Just a little splat there on the inside of the threads. The reason I do that is if I put any kind of thread treatment here on the outermost threads, the threads engaging right away will then disperse the thread lock or thread treatment all the way across the threads and may spread it out thin enough that you may not get a good adhesion. So what I like to do, I try to get any kind of treatment up at the base of the threads, the innermost part. That way, in this case, my nut will thread all the way down until about 90% of the way shut, because this axle is 6 miles long, I swear. It'll thread the majority of the way in before it grabs any of that thread adhesion, any of the thread additive, I guess. And it'll use everything concentrated at the end. That way, hopefully, in theory at least, what makes sense to me is you should get the most grab. So that's what I'm going to do here. Okay. Start threading that back on, fire up the air compressor, and we'll keep buttoning this up. Let me try to show you something here. Remember how I said in these tight places like this, you want to try to get a good solid square angle or hit the bolt head on? This, you can kind of see, now that I got my sensor hooked up, look right down there where the end of the socket is, you can see that on the right side of the socket, the head of the bolt is making, or I'm sorry, the socket tip, the end of the socket is hitting on the head of the bolt. Whereas on the left side, you can see there is not. So that socket is sitting cockeyed on the head of that bolt. Kind of zoom out here, you can kind of see what's going on. The suspension components there, the sway bar link and the CV axle, are keeping that long extension held at an angle. So it makes it difficult to get a square head-on attachment on the head of that bolt. So some things you could look at: a shorter extension, longer socket, any combination like that. And then also the other thing you could do is be sure you're using a 6-point socket in situations like this, not a 12-point. That is a good way to really get yourself in a lot of trouble. So watch out for stuff like this, because this will cause you a lot of pain in the long run. All right, now same deal on this side. Make sure I got my dust cover in place. Take my new hub and put a little bit of anti-seize in there. Just like so. Same thing. Orientate the sensor so it's facing the other sensor correctly, the other side of the harness. Line it up with everything. Something like that. Use my extension and socket to start to thread the top bolt, so it'll hang itself there. There we go. Use the other couple of bolts. Get them started. Here we go. And the third one. Again, another little jockey to get all the bolts to start threading. Now that all those are connected, come in here, line these up, the harness and the sensor connector, click just like that, and then click into the retainer just like that. Come back with my ratchet and start tightening all this stuff back down. Just to snug that one up, do the same thing here. All right. So something else you might see me do from time to time also is I'll use my leg here as a leverage point for my arm, and I will use this point to push against my leg to start to tighten it, and then I'll even use my ankle and lift with my leg on top of it just for a little extra lift. That one's snug. And something else you can do too is you can either push the head of the ratchet. If say your bolt is facing head out this way, you could push the head of the ratchet, or in this case, I'm going to be pulling on it, put pressure on this end of the socket into the head of the bolt. That way you guarantee you have that much more bite, that much more surface area to tighten or loosen that bolt with. One more. Probably would have been better if I tightened it up first and then put the connector on, but I'm stupid that way. I like to make things harder for myself. Just like that. Good and tight. Okay. Try this again. A little. Okay. Put our rotor on. Be sure we line up one of our cutouts for the retaining bolt. Make sure one of those cutouts lines up with the threads in the hub. Put that guy back in there. And I like to go just snug on these. I don't want to strip out the socket points in the head of the bolt. I don't want to pop the head off the threads. I don't want the threads to get stuck in the hub. All those good things. I just go snug. This is just in addition, just to help keep the rotor in place when you pull the caliper off so it doesn't fall off. So it doesn't need to be super tight. Make sure our pads stayed in the caliper as we slide this back over. Maybe, sort of, kind of. There. All right. got that all back on. Went ahead and tapped on the old straight wrench here to make sure everything was good and tight. Calipers all ready to go. Be sure we got our hanging devices, our bungee cords all out of the way. Make sure all the tools and the parts are all where they need to be. No tools hiding up in here anywhere. Nothing feels loose or looks out of place. Everything looks solid. So I think we're good to go. So now give me just a minute here. I'm going to show you my way of making sure these axle nuts are tight. I do have the air gun like you saw, but like I mentioned, it's really old. It doesn't have as much power as it used to. So I know it's not putting on that nut as tight as that nut needs to be. So let me show you what I do to get around that. All right, so what I end up having to do, because my air gun doesn't have the power to tighten these down where they need to go, and I don't have a torque wrench to get these absolutely perfect, which you don't have to do if you know what you're doing. What I do is I take my socket and adapter I had on my air gun, and I use this cheapo borrowed Pittsburgh brand breaker bar, right? I put them together, and I'll put that on the axle nut, right? And you go, oh no, it's not tight enough to hold the axle and the rotor assembly, everything together so you can tighten it down. Here's what you do. You have your lovely assistant jump in the driver's seat of the car and start the engine and use the power brakes to lock that rotor in place. That way it has nowhere else to go. That way, every bit of your leverage that you have on this is directed straight onto that axle nut and then will tighten down. That's what I end up having to do. Yeah, it sucks having to borrow somebody, but you know what? That's kind of the cost of doing this stuff on your own. So bear with me here. I'm going to round up my lovely assistant and we're going to get these tightened down. All right. And brake pedal down. All right. I got my help. He's got the engine started. He got his foot on the brake. Use that to tighten this up. Another thing is too, when you're doing stuff like this, don't have your fingers all the way around the handle, as in the off chance you slip off whatever you're tightening, you're gonna end up punching the floor you're working on. Try to do open hand. That way, when you slip, you smack the concrete, not your hand. Try anyway. No. Oh, that's pretty tight already. All right, other side. Here, I'm gonna close this. Will you hold the wheel still? All right. Ow. Oof. All right, guys, there you have it. Just like that, hubs on your 2007 to 2013. It's a little bit different Chevy Impala episode for the channel, but trying some new things here, seeing what works, see what you guys like. Have any questions, comments, concerns, be sure to let me know down below. I'll be happy to help or happy to answer anything you guys want to know. Be sure to stay tuned. There's a whole bunch of other stuff coming. You'll probably see some videos floating around up here somewhere. I got the 5.3 LS swap Cherokee. I got videos up there already. There's more coming. I got a whole bunch of stuff. Be sure to stick around. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you on the next one.